Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and watch from anywhere. Get ready for a chat with a chair.
I'm Joe Etling, Chair of the Vigo County Democratic Central Committee. Welcome to the award-winning Chat with the Chair. So glad you could join us. Hope everyone is doing well, and we appreciate you tuning in. You know, around the holidays, you'll never know who you'll run into on the streets of Terre Haute. There are so many people that are back visiting with family, people that are from school, people on their jobs, people in the military. So it's always great to run into people on the streets that you haven't seen for a minute or two. And lo and behold, I'm on the streets of the city of Terre Haute today, and I run into this guy. So tell our viewers who you are.
Absolutely, Jim. My name is Brandon Sakbun. I'm a graduate of Terre Haute South, and then I would go on to join the Army ROTC program at Indiana University. I graduated from Indiana University in 2018 and immediately dove headfirst into the United States Army, specifically the Ranger Regiment. From a young age, public service has been instilled in me through both my parents who immigrated here and eventually chose to raise our family here in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I've been so thankful. Terre Haute's got a good veteran presence. A lot of my teachers, a lot of my coaches, and professors even at Indiana University were all veterans, and so I was motivated throughout my entire life, throughout all the sports that I did here and the community involvement that my family's had, and ultimately chose to serve in the Army's Ranger Regiment and just got back from a work trip, so I'm here visiting my folks and happy to run into you today.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you were an accomplished athlete down at Terre Haute South, home of the
Braves.
Home of the Braves. We're big on mascots here on the chat. So home of the Braves, and of course you distinguish yourselves in many ways, and I know that you and your family were very accomplished in the swimming pool.
Oh, well, I wouldn't say me. You know, it's definitely my older brother and two younger sisters, and they are phenomenal athletes. I like to say I was more of the talker than the athlete growing up, but I grew into it a little bit over the last few years.
So where did all the interest in the pool come from?
Yeah, so the interest in the pool, you know, it started really kind of early on. At the time, the kind of Vigo County Terre Haute Torpedoes, they offered lessons for folks, you know, of all ages, to include down to infants and toddlers. And my parents decided to get me and my brother involved at the time, and we instantly took a liking to it. And so I think from as long as I can remember, I think it started around 3-4 years old, we gravitated towards the water. And all four of us have spent now, you know, almost 2 decades with the Terre Haute Torpedoes, with the Terre Haute South, and you know, we're very thankful for the community, the effort that went into things like the Aquatic Center. And Terre Haute, if you look at the swimming history here, is absolutely phenomenal. Compared to some of the counties our size, we've got quite the record in the water, and we've been fortunate to have some pretty solid coaching staffs that have come here that have gone on to do great things, and we are definitely thankful for the swimming community here in Terre Haute.
So of course, well known for your athletic accomplishments, your family, particularly in the swimming pool, and that's to be commended, but also for your academic prowess. And of course, you have continued to be big ambassadors for Terre Haute South and the Vigo County school system, and the not only the athletics but the academics. So talk about that. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, I think when you look at a community like Terre Haute, right, what's really critical to raising families here is a rock solid school system. And whether it's the Terre Haute North Patriots or the Terre Haute South Braves or over at West Vigo, all those programs have done a great job of not only focusing on the AP athletic side, but there's really good technical programs now that the schools in Vigo County has put time, energy, and effort into. And it's very rewarding to see some of our younger kids. They can walk into high school and say, you know, maybe I want to specialize in welding or automotive, and we've got schools that give them that opportunity, which in and of itself is unique. I'm thankful for it, the community's thankful for it as well, and it happens at all of our schools. It's good to see it kind of continue growing. Hopefully, you know, the community continues to grow as the schools do.
Why is that important? I know that the path that you took was to a college-bound path to Indiana University, but why is that important, and to have that opportunity for those that want to go into the trades?
Oh, I think when you look at not just Indiana, not just Terre Haute, but when we look at the entire nation, we are really hurting in a lot of different areas, and part of that is those specialized skills, right? So I know we touched on welding and automotive. That's just an example, right? And it happens in both fronts, right? In the medical community, I think the COVID pandemic highlighted some of the concerns for an increased effort to see more workers there. And part of that is a little bit of marketing. I wish our states or communities would do more to show and highlight all the opportunities that are out there for a student. I think we get a little too hyper-focused sometimes on students and saying, oh, you should go to college, you should do this, you should do that. I think the real question we should be asking our younger generation is, okay, here's the 4 to 5 options you can do. Let's empower you to make an informed decision. One of those decisions is the United States military. I will use every opportunity possible to talk about all the benefits that our young men and women can have if they join the armed forces. I've had friends and peers go on to be officers, go on to enlist in the Navy, Air Force, and Army, and so I cannot stress enough the opportunity there to really grow and have a strong, steady income, as well as, most importantly, give back to the country. So that's just one of the many options, as previously mentioned, as well as the trade school.
So when you went down to IU, it was really upon your freshman year there that you decided to make the commitment to the military. What was it? Was there a single item that in particular drew you to do that or make that commitment?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Joe. Speaking of the single item that drove me to the military, I always knew I was going to join the military from a young age. And the final decision, when I signed the paper to join the RTC program, I quite literally ran into the ROTC recruiting van. I was going on a jog one of my first days in campus, and this van was kind of parked, and I had my headphones in. And unfortunately, like young people do, every now and then I was looking at my cell phone, and I run into this van, and an individual walks out in a uniform and says, "Hey, you can run a little bit. Have you ever thought about running with the U.S. Army?" And he had some experience in the Rangers. And we start chatting. I told him how much I did want to be an Army Ranger, the best of the best. And then ultimately that's where that kind of went, and it all started from just a run on campus one day. I do know Indiana State and Rose-Hulman both have programs. If any high school students are interested, I'm always more than happy to talk to anyone regardless of their background or their level of interest to really highlight those programs and how much they can do for our young students.
So, of course, that means you're committed not only from an academic standpoint, pursuing your degree at Indiana University in your case, but also to the commitment to the military. Talk about what that commitment was during your time in Bloomington.
Absolutely. So it's really unique program, right? You've got 3 to 4 mornings a week where you're involved in the physical training aspect. You've got a couple afternoons where you're involved in the academic, understanding military tactics and leadership. And then obviously it culminates in a commission to the military. So the commission is either a National Guard position or an active duty position. And usually what that commitment looks like, it's 4 to 5 years. And then you go on to special schooling once you graduate from whatever university you attended. And in my personal case, I went on down to Fort Benning, Georgia. If you've never been to Fort Benning, Georgia, I recommend you wear deodorant and you bring sunscreen. 100% humidity in the spring, fall, and summer, and it is quite the place to train. And then finishing my time there, I spent a year out in the desert in California, really studying large-scale combat operations, getting hands-on training, working with a variety of different military units there. My military service culminated the last 2.5 years with the Army's Ranger Regiment, another great organization. Have really loved being a part of the special operations community. Whether it's working with stakeholders from all different government organizations, different nations, it's just a really good hands-on experience to understand the maximum potential of the public sector, just how far folks are really willing to push themselves to get the mission done. It's been quite the inspiration.
I know our viewers are familiar with the Army Ranger, the best of the best, but talk about what the Army Ranger program is all about.
Yeah, so the Army Ranger program, it really starts, with the Ranger Creed, and the biggest one I like to bring up, the biggest portion of that creed is it's 100% and then some. It's an organization that can infiltrate through land, sea, or air. But more importantly than that, what it is it's that tight-knit community that takes a Ranger, however young he or she is, and makes them the best they can be. One of the stories that I like to use to highlight just the potential of the military. I've had soldiers from inner cities in California to, backwoods Georgia. And, they're breaking bread at the same table. They're focused on the same common cause. And they are hyper-focused on being stronger, smarter, and faster. Another great benefit to the Ranger Regiment is they have programs like the Ranger for Life program that are dedicated to ensuring that a Ranger is set up for success on the battlefield and their family is set up for success at home. And when folks decide to make the transition out, there's plenty of resources there to help with education, help with the transition. But that family atmosphere, I would compare it to some sports teams, but it's just a little bit more when you go through that training and you have that kind of group suffering. You really get to know one another and you're continuing to fight, right? Continuing to fight as a group, as a team. I can't highlight that enough, and it really teaches you to really bring stakeholders together, take a kind of a second of pause and understand it. What is our desired common goal, our desired end state? And not everyone will get what they want, but that teamwork, that organization is truly second to none.
And your family as a whole has really made a commitment to the military, and it's been something they've been very supportive of.
Yes, absolutely. Then it all started with my brother. So, I was very fortunate to have a strong mentor, role model in my brother. He goes on to the Naval Academy, decides the water isn't tough enough for him. He would go on to switch to boxing, and he'd win a national championship at club boxing while he was at the Naval Academy. And you watch him go, I watched him be a Marine infantry officer, and I knew right then and there that I had made the right decision of joining the United States military. And my parents were incredibly supportive. They immigrated to the United States, and they've seen the unfortunate realities of what other countries are like outside of where, you and I are very fortunate to call home. And so when you get that kind of experience growing up and you go and you visit some of these countries where my parents are from, I quickly understood that, this truly is the greatest country in the world. And I will do everything I can to fight and support it. And I was willing to do 5 years active duty and definitely looking at all avenues to transition, to continue to keep giving back because it's so important. And those are kind of really key points that I learned, especially on deployments with the Ranger Regiment. It opens your eyes to just how much we have here and how important it is to fight to continue to have what we have, not just on the battlefield, but through all avenues of the public sector.
And I know also that your family came to Vigo County and Terre Haute in specific, and that's always been, this place has always been very special to your family and to you. So talk about that and your vision for Terre Haute in the future.
Yeah, I kind of always reached in my back pocket on this one and quote what my mom and dad used to love to say, and it takes a village, right? It really takes a village to grow and mold our young folks in that next generation. And Terre Haute, it's got all the pieces there, and it does have kind of that village, right? You look at the education opportunities here, you look at the athletic opportunities here, but also, Terre Haute's got a pretty lively international community for a town of this size in Indiana. You can't go to many places within the Midwest and have the wide range of food options that you do here, and a large part of that is because of our institutions, Indiana State, Rose-Hulman, and St. Mary's of the Woods. It truly is one of a kind. And I look at cities like Terre Haute, and it's like great potential, right, to continue to bring in businesses and jobs. You see kind of the convention center, and you kind of watch the ball continue to move. And there is potential here to really grow and get to that next level, whether it's through infrastructure, whether it's through coordination with higher education universities right here, right in our backyard, right down the road, as well as, high school education, the technical education as previously discussed. But there's quite a lot of potential in a city like Terre Haute.
Now, the attention, of course, nationally is to get young people involved in public service, and and of course your commitment to the military is one step with that. What is your thought with regard to public service and young people's commitment to public service?
That is, I would encourage all young folks out there, it does not have to be the military, right? That is a great route if folks do choose to take that. But I strongly encourage folks to get involved, whether it's through political campaigns. Obviously, the number one, quick, easy button everyone should do, that's vote.
Absolutely.
Right, that's get out and vote and get registered. And if you have any questions with regards to voters registration, please do, leave a comment or reach out to the chair here himself, and we'll be sure to help folks get registered to vote, and that's a good step one. Other organizations that I do love to bring up, especially in this setting, are Teach for America, are AmeriCorps, and most importantly, whether you have a full-time job or a part-time job, the easiest thing you can do is just volunteer. There are plenty of, your Catholic food charities, right? There's plenty of organizations here that could use a hand, whether it's an hour once a month, 2 hours, 3 hours here, but time is precious, time is valuable. I understand that. There's always important to have time for your family, time for yourself. But if folks could just give their time a little bit, we can take this community to the next level. We can provide for some of our neighbors who might not be in the situation to have as much, and some of the families who could use a little bit of help. So I encourage folks to vote. I encourage folks to give their time a little bit through volunteer work and to explore organizations like the military, like Teach for America, and kind of find a way to lend a hand. I know all of our athletic programs could always use an assistant coach and chance to role model some of the, be a role model for some of the youth on our team. So always good to throw that out there.
Of course, you bring up a good point. I mean, it's when we talk about elections and you see the numbers come in, it's always disappointing in a way to see how few people, I mean, if you see 3 people walking on the street, for the most part, you can count only one of the 3 has actually gone and voted in a given election. So that's something that we all need to continue to promote. Was that an important component for you during the time that you've been in school, in the military? Has voting here in Vigo County been an important part of your life?
Absolutely. It's been a priority, and a large part, again, goes back to my parents. They said, folks, in this nation, you have an opportunity to vote. The unfortunate reality is that in some nations, currently still in 2022, there are not free and fair elections. There's not. It's one family, one person completely running the country. Here, at all levels, state, local, as well as the federal government, we have an opportunity to have our voices heard. And they stress that from a young age. And when I was at school, I would just make the drive down from Bloomington. In the military, I will say Vigo County's got a great absentee ballot program. They have made it incredibly easy. I voted from the deserts in California. I have voted while deployed for combat operations before, and I voted from Georgia as well, all because of the ability and the system that we have here in Vigo County with regards to absentee ballot voting.
So there's a lot of opportunities, and like you say, with the military, of course, we recognize Veterans Day this month of November, and it's so important, and it brings it into focus even much more so, but it's something that you've lived with on your daily basis for so many years now, and you're encouraging still people to be involved. Do you find that young people are interested in military service?
From my personal experience, when you have those conversations with folks, they are more inclined to do it, right? So part of that is on the military to really work on their marketing, work on their ability to expose the younger generation to all the opportunities available in the military. And I always take that upon myself to do, especially with the hometown recruiting, is to let folks know, not everyone's going to be an infantryman running around, right? I call these guys the poster guys because you see it on the poster, you think that's the military. There are tons of opportunities available, especially in medical services and communication and cyber, and all these opportunities are great because they teach folks real technical skills that can be applied to their career when they leave the military. So I always encourage kids to go to goarmy.com, but also just to do their own research, even if it's the Navy or the Marine Corps or the Air Force. As much as I like to shamelessly plug and advertise for the Army, there's opportunities out there. You just got to do a little bit of research, and there's recruiters out there that can help make some of those decisions for you. And I always encourage folks just to get that information as much as possible.
We've got a lot of great people in Terre Haute and Vigo County, and I know we oftentimes say we're trying to get young people to come here, to stay here, recruit them. From your perspective, what do you think is the primary selling point for Terre Haute and Vigo County to attract and to keep young people?
Yeah, I think a large part, that's a good question, and a large part of that is the infrastructure, right, as well as, the affordability in terms of the housing market, and then it's really the education piece as well as the medical piece. We're fortunate to have Union Hospital, Regional Hospital, and a variety of hospitals right down the road for our citizens to go to. Right, some folks don't have that in a lot of communities, right? We're fortunate to have a very robust, police force, fire department that can provide public safety for our citizens, although, there's always improvements that can be made. There's always additional funding that can be put there so we can continue to recruit and train, police officers and the fire department. And then the education piece, and that starts not just with high school and college, although it's important to bring up how important it is to have those relationships with Indiana State, with St. Mary's of the Woods College, with Rose-Hulman, but all the way down to our elementary schools, to our pre-K programs, to our kindergarten programs. And on top of education, it's a very robust extracurricular opportunities for our students, for them to stay engaged. Right, I've always loved all the sports we have, as well as all the academic programs. There's music programs. There's also those trade schools that we'd mentioned, and some of those hands-on kind of internship opportunities. And I'd like to see really small businesses throughout the community really take a hand and start getting involved and get some of those students, right, to work, whether that's through internships or through sponsoring different organizations. But it does take a community effort, right, to raise. It goes back to that statement of it takes a village, and we do have that village here. And it's very appealing for folks who want to come start families and grow in the Hoosier State.
So all the places that you've been, the things you see, I guess you still have a fond place in your heart for Terre Haute?
Absolutely, yeah. I went out to California and was stationed there, and then there's a lot of opportunity out there, and a lot of opportunity even in Georgia. I went down to Columbus, Georgia, but where did I live in Columbus, Georgia? Well, I lived right on the Columbus River, right? The Chattahoochee River that runs through the city of Columbus. It was the first place that I looked at for apartments because it just reminded me of that Wabash River, that hometown feel that I've grown to love when I grew up here and went to elementary, middle school, and high school here. There's something different about Indiana and about Terre Haute, truly, and I truly believe that. And it's all the folks who help raise people here, and that tight-knit community just is. You don't see that in cities across the United States, but we've really got it here, and it's important that we market that here.
And do you think that there's been a good job from whoever's responsible for that, but overall with regard to Terre Haute's perception from those that weren't born here, weren't raised here, that they have a different view of Terre Haute than it actually is?
Yeah, I definitely think, in that field specifically, there could be some additional work put into it. I know the Visitors Bureau has done a good job. I think Laverne Gibson should be, on one end, the positive end of the spectrum when you look at all the events it brings in, all the families, all the communities that it brings in for all those cross-country meets, whether it's middle school, high school, or at the college level, right? And we haven't done that as much over the last 10 years in other industries. We are starting to do that in terms of a convention center, but there's always more partnerships that can be done. There's always more that can be done. I think it takes energy. I think it takes compassion and empathy to understand all the stakeholders involved. And I think it just takes really the right leadership to come up and be hyper-fixated on improving the community and pouring in, energy and effort into just that.
So how has your visit been with your family during the Thanksgiving break?
Oh, it's been great. I will say, my parents are phenomenal cooks. I've learned a lot from them. Cooking is not one of them. I do check out the show a little bit, and I know you've got your cook-off coming on.
Absolutely.
So I wish I could maybe lend a hand in that field, but I certainly can't. And my brothers and sisters are much better cooks than I am, but it's been good just to be back with the family. Good to see Indiana State get a a really strong win,
Yes.
another 100-point performance
Yes.
against Trinity just this past Sunday, and they're getting ready for conference play. So I always make sure to follow, the local teams and see how they continue to improve. Saw the Thanksgiving tournament just down at Rose-Hulman. Looked like they had a packed crowd for all of the high schools that were in that tournament on that Saturday. So really good to see those signs of positivity in the community to help things like that perception, as we previously discussed.
Yeah. Well, we obviously want to encourage people to go out to those high school events, and of course to get out to the Holman Center. We need to fill that place for those young people, both the men and the women's teams for sure, and they've got great programs and put a lot of work in, so it's a beautiful facility. If you haven't, they've made some great improvements there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I sat, I was able to get a seat pretty close there, and it was phenomenal. The amount of improvements they've done there, it's very well lit. The scoreboard looked brand new. And you see it from afar on ESPN broadcast, and you're almost kind of shocked. You're like, wow, that is Terre Haute, Indiana. And those are the improvements that students need to see. I truly believe Indiana State's a phenomenal campus. I think could really continue to grow. It just is, helping out that marketing from a community perspective would be very beneficial for us to help them continue to grow. Unfortunately, I have not made it out to see St. Mary of the Woods College 170-pound football team. I have heard just the best comments about it. It's electric. Maybe I would have been able to play football now. I was a little bit shorter and smaller in high school, but I'm very impressed with that school specifically. They open their doors, and they've been very innovative in terms of the programs they offer, not just athletically, but academically as well. And that's a school that you look at, and their involvement with the community in terms of their overall enrollment is really great to watch. And then, without a doubt, Rose-Hulman equally is inspiring in all the patents that they're doing there, their alumni involvement, and that school is being at capacity. And, of course, we'd be remiss not to mention Ivy Tech Community College as well. Another great institution offering a variety of programs for folks who could do part-time or could maybe do full-time and just need to attend a school, and it's great. It's phenomenal. I'm happy we've got all those institutions here in our community.
That's for sure. Well said, and we just want to encourage people to take advantage of all the assets that we have here in Terre Haute and Vigo County. I know that your parents are awful proud of you, as they should be, and of course, it was great that we had an opportunity to run into one another, and I know that you're back to your military commitment. Any last thoughts for our viewers?
In closing, it's really important to stress that community feel, right? Again, I'm super pumped to have run into you, because here I am walking downtown, and you've got Federale's Coffee, you got Scout's Pizzeria right around the corner. There are so many hotels that are booming and growing here, and when you watch construction, you're obviously a little bit frustrated, right? Traffic slows down, but at the end of the day, when you look at that end result, and you see all the businesses downtown, and it's all the potential, and I really do think Terre Haute's a community that can take that next step, and I really do stress that younger folks being involved, right? So, please do register to vote, reach out to the party chair, leave a comment if you need any tips or advice on which forms to properly fill out and how. And I also stress, time is valuable. My time in the military is winding down, but for all folks, if they're able to just give an hour of their time, whether it's once a month, twice a month, to just help our community grow. And some folks, they haven't had the opportunity, they don't have as much, and that's all right. It's on us to be that community for them and reach out and give them a hand if they need it. So really stress that community approach, and really stress increased involvement from all the younger folks in Vigo County. I cannot highlight that enough. It was great running into you today. Thank
Appreciate
you so much.
You chatting with the chair.
Absolutely.
And I omitted one big question here, and that is, what do you think of the Blazer?
Yeah, I've seen this Blazer on Facebook once or twice. I must say it's quite the fashionable outfit.
Absolutely. Well, you got a brand. You got to do your thing here, so we do that here on the chat. But it's been delightful to have you join us, and we wish you well, and thank you for your service. We sure appreciate that. I'm Joe Etling. Until our next chat, be safe. God bless you all.
CRATIC. Everything you need to know about the Vigo Dem Party. So sit back, relax, and